Hey sis, welcome back to the Her Best Self podcast. In a recent episode, 281, I talked with great friends and fellow podcasters, Jenna and Kelly. And I received so much feedback from my listeners. Thanks to each of you who sent something saying that you loved the candid conversation, you love the conversational tone, and you wanted more. So in today's episode, we are going to extend that conversation and we're going to talk about a couple of different things. How to support a partner who is going through eating disorder recovery, or to help support a loved one who might be in denial that there is an eating disorder. And then, of course, the flip side of that. What support does the supportive partner, the supportive person need when they are helping to support their loved one through this journey? In addition to that, we're going to touch on passing down eating disorders generation to generation. Like, is that a thing? What my thoughts are on that. And also just other questions that the ladies ask me that I do feel are going to really help you as you navigate recovery. Here's the thing, friend. You do not want to do this journey by yourself. And I just love this candid conversation. It gives so much perspective into the hearts and minds of other ladies out there. I hope that you enjoy today's episode. Let's jump right in. Here we go. Hey girl, welcome to the Her Best Self podcast. I'm Lindsay Nickel, former competitive figure skater and perfectionist, turned God-led imperfect boy mom and digital CEO. If you find yourself constantly thinking about food and wondering if you'll wake up one day free from the obsessive thoughts and behaviors controlling your life, then I've created this podcast for you. Because I know exactly what it's like to be a downright hot mess, trapped in a destructive cycle of disordered eating. I finally found freedom, and you can too, girlfriend. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with food and body and break the chains of control and show up in your best health, then grab your favorite Tarjay journal and let's get to it. So you can start living your best life as your best self.
Okay, we're back because we had way too much to talk about to pack into one.
We're back.
So Lindsay graciously agreed to be held hostage for another little bit here. So we wanted to hit a couple different things. We'll see where we get to because you know how this goes, people. But how eating disorders can show up, not just for the people that are experiencing them, but if you are a parent with a child that you suspect has an eating disorder, or if your partner or friend you know has one or you suspect has an eating disorder. And then we were just getting into, so I actually just want to start here because why not? Why do eating disorders seem to show up more for women? Is it because they truly do, or because do we not create space for men to be vulnerable to say, I stressed out about eating too much today? Or for men, it's perhaps more stereotypically, I need to be bigger and I'm too small. And that could be disordered eating. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Lindsay, because again, I'm very guilty of just writing off, well, men just don't have this problem. It's just women because we have to be people pleasers and we're supposed to be sexual gratification objects. So we need to be pleasing to everybody around us. But yeah, that's probably partly true, but that doesn't mean that men don't struggle and we just haven't named it, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like 25 to 40%. And this is through ANAD, the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders. You can go out there. They update every year annual statistics, but roughly 25 to 40% of people with eating disorders are actually males. The gender gap, it is narrowing a bit. There have been more recent diagnoses that have been increased by like more than 50%, if not 70% in recent years. And I would say that the difference between what you're seeing in women versus men is a couple things. Muscle dysmorphia is sort of the male version of this. We actually call that bigorexia, is like the street term, I guess you could say. And really, this is where we have an obsession with our body size, with our muscularity. And we are constantly, again, never have a rest day, only on Sundays, whatever that looks like. It is actually something that, is predominant in also a lot of athletes. Like when you think of swimmers or you think of wrestlers or, for a while, my husband was on this whole kick of bodybuilding. You actually have eating disorders in men that is not as uncommon as one would assume that it is. What I will say is that the biggest the biggest thing, and I feel like the reason why it's not talked about enough is because, well, for one, it's shameful as it is anyways, but people don't kind of associate a man. A man is supposed to be a strong, right? And that is kind of what society has deemed to be true, where when you think about someone with an eating disorder, our stereotype, quite frankly, is that that person is meek and weak.
Yeah.
And so it's just the culture hasn't, I think, elevated up. But one of the things I will say is that men are not as likely to get diagnosed for it, even when they have some identical symptoms. They also take a lot longer than women to get treatment or to kind of, I guess you could say, come out with the fact, simply because it's one of those things that it's considered a female issue. And so they're more likely to kind of sit with it than come out with the fact that they struggle with it. It kind of seems like, oh, well, I should just power through this. Or what dude doesn't want bigger muscles? It's just part of my environment, right? So it seems as though it's not, I just don't think that people are as forthcoming with the reality behind closed doors when it comes to the male population.
That makes sense. Because just thinking about the roots of it, it doesn't make sense that it would be isolated to women, because men have, while it might be different, I think just as much societal pressure to look a certain way or be a certain way. And while we certainly have, well, I suppose I'm biased, I feel like as women, we have the bulk of the oppression, but men have their own. It's just different. Right? Yeah. You're not supposed to have feelings. You're not supposed to cry a lot. You're not supposed to be tiny. You're supposed to be a big provider, or, whatever. I'm sure there's various stereotypes, but so that was, I think it's important to call that out, because if you are a man and you're listening and some of these behaviors are hitting you, yet you also could have an eating disorder. And that doesn't mean that you are weak or broken. It just means that maybe there's something controlling the decisions and things you're doing in life that doesn't need to be there. So you can get assistance with that and get out of that just as much as women can.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit. We were talking a little bit about how this affects people around you and what happens when you think someone around you, a loved one, a friend, is struggling with an eating disorder. Like, how do you recognize it, and how has this really affected people?
Yeah, I guess I feel like two things can happen. If you are the one that has the eating disorder, how you are being approached can either help or it can drive you deeper into the disorder. And so, because it depends on where you are, typically when someone is coming to you that is your supportive person, whether that be a sibling, a parent, a spouse, they just want to help you. Like, they see things that are off, right? Maybe you're not eating meals with the family. Maybe you're over exercising, or your routine is different. Maybe they're noticing noticeable weight loss, whatever those symptoms may look like. And so those are some things to check out for, right? If you are the supporting person in a loved one's life that might be struggling with an eating disorder. But what can sometimes be not intended to be negative can be very, very pushy in a way that isn't meant to. So I'll give you an example. So, when I came through my recovery journey, I was in complete denial. I thought I was the cream of the crop. I thought I was at the peak of my life. I was in the best shape of my life because I was the smallest, and no one was going to tell me any different. I was like on top of the mountain. And then there were a couple of series of events that happened. Plus, my mom saw significant changes in my body. And at first, it was, okay, Lindsay, I'm noticing a little bit of change here. What's going on? Are you okay? My mom's my best friend. What that did was push me to the disorder even more, because again, I had mentioned, I think in the last episode, it's a very secretive thing. This is something that you're ashamed of, and you also don't feel like you can get out of. And so the more that she would say things and make comments like, oh, just eat something, it's not that hard, or, oh my gosh, you look sick, you're too thin, or I wish you could just get over this by now. Meaning well, right? Because again, she was meaning well, But the reality is that pushed me even more deep into the disorder, because I was like, well, I'm not listening to you. You know, you think about when you're trying to tell your kids not to do something, sometimes they are stubborn as, you know, what, and they are going to do it anyways. And that pushed me deeper. And I will just say, my husband and I just did an episode on my show on this about the supportive spouse during this process. But I think if you are, you know, going to your person that you want to help and support, as that supportive person, I talk to both him and my mom now. I think that where you're coming is from a place of wanting to fix. You just want to fix. You're like, how do I make the person I love, how do I make it better and whole, right? And nobody wants to see that. And then you go through your process of yourself, which is super important if you're the supporting person, to make sure you're doing some self-care, because then you are going and blaming. Okay, especially if it's a child, right? What did I do wrong as a parent that now my child has developed this? And so when I was going through my stuff, my mom constantly felt like it was her fault. Like, what did she not do? Because everything else was great, but I somehow developed anorexia, and it was on her to figure out what she did wrong. And so I think that there's a couple of different parts of this. And part of it is just, if you're that supporting person, get as much education around the disorder as possible, because it has nothing to do with you. As much as you want to fix that person and try to be there for that person, the best thing you can do is actually be there for that person. And so I think that a couple of things are super important. One is, don't police the food. Don't police the food. I know we want to say comments. We want to say you should or shouldn't be eating that, or did you have lunch, or all these things. But this creates shame and power struggle. Don't make it about you, right? You're hurting me by doing this. My mom used to say, like, I'm just so upset and worried and disappointed, and I can't even sleep. And I was already drowning in my own guilt. I couldn't take on hers. It just made me feel like more of a disappointment and more of a failure, which we know why we tend to go to an eating disorder in the first place. And that's because we are feeling out of control and we're feeling like a failure and not good enough. So that just piles on more of that. Fear tactics. When that supportive loved one is really like in it with you, and they're so tired of your stuff and they don't feel like you're changing or doing anything with your own stuff, they will say stuff like, you're going to die if you keep this up, or look at what you're doing to your body. That doesn't motivate. It creates resistance. And so, you know, another one, the guy I was dating at a time, he would just say, like, go eat a burger. That is just one of the dumbest things somebody can tell someone with an eating disorder, because this is a complex mental illness, right? And so we have to treat it as such. So one thing that would be super important is to not abandon, but be there as that person's like strong arm, and don't participate in behaviors like they are. So if you're trying to help someone that is struggling, then encouraging better behaviors for yourself and modeling those behaviors and doing those things, like watching my mom order like chicken and a baguette at Panera, was super important for me, because she wasn't engaging in the stuff I was engaging in. She was modeling it. And so I think the shift for what happened in my life is she got educated on how to support me, right? So that's the first thing. Get education on how to help support that person. And she modeled those healthy behaviors. A simple check-in of like, how are you doing today? I miss you. I love you. I've been thinking about you. You know, I'm here for you if you need anything. And I want to listen, and I don't want to fix. That is something that pulled me to her, because I got so tired of my own stuff and I got so scared of my own stuff that I did need to talk with someone. I just didn't want to feel pushed to do that. And so I would say, when you're first having these conversations, right, if you're going to talk with that person, I think the best thing is to just be there. Just be the sounding board. Just be there. Just listen and see what's going on versus judging, even though you're trying to fix it. And then I will say, in some situations, right, it can be extreme where, you know, you might be hitting a wall, and there gets to a point where like they do need additional support. And so that is a whole separate conversation that, you know, we can talk about maybe on a different episode. But
that's, I remember when I was in my stuff, there's two things. One, if somebody comments, well, you're just too thin, that was a compliment. That actually made me feel,
Right.
I'm like, well, you just aren't disciplined enough. So, ha
Mm-hmm.
ha ha.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, if somebody keeps picking at it, to your point, as much as you are trapped in it, it's also, it feels like you can't live without it. And so when someone's threatening to take that away from you, it's created, I just remember feeling so panicky and so much anxiety, like I don't know what I'm going to do with myself if I don't have this outlet. So then, to your point, it just makes you push the person that is trying to help you farther and farther and farther away, because you're a threat to the only thing that I've found that lets me kind of not claw my way out of my own body. But I'm sure, saying all that, it is incredibly difficult to sit by somebody that you love and watch them hurt themselves and be deteriorating and be in so much pain. And then I am absolutely a fixer. So that
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
so hard.
It would feel impossible, I would think, you know, to not want to just fix them, especially when it's someone that you love very dearly. You know, you want to fix it and you want to make it better for them. And the thought that fixing is counterintuitive, that is going to be, that's a mind shift.
It sounds very much like when I've heard people say, how do you support somebody that's in an abusive relationship that doesn't want to leave? Because your inclination is to say, do you know, why are you staying? Like, you know, this is toxic. Like, he's hurting you or they're hitting you. Why are you staying? And unfortunately, that usually pushes that person away, and then they are more and more isolated than they were before. So if you think of an eating disorder in the same way that you think of an abusive partner that your best friend is with, it is the same thing, because the more you try and make them see it, the more that they will isolate themselves from you, and it reduces the opportunity or the chances that you will ever actually be able to help them. Because again, from what I've read and heard and things about specifically women, but I'm sure just people in abusive relationships, is you kind of have to stand by and just be there and not abandon them, even though you're sick and tired of it. And you're like, I hate having to watch you in this. This is breaking my heart. I can't. And I don't think you have to sit there and just, stare. You can create healthy boundaries for yourself, like you were saying, self-care. But for them to always know that anytime that they need you, that you are going to be there and you're not going to judge them, that, as I understand, has been so powerful in a lot of people's lives that have finally been ready to make the jump to leave said relationship. And I think a lot of times they leave and then they go back, and they leave and then they go back. Same thing. If you have an eating disorder or the person you love has an eating disorder, I would be willing to guess that the first time they leave the eating disorder, it's not done. They're going to go back. How many times, I don't know. So that's just a lot. So I think there's ways to be supportive, like you're saying. And I think I love the self-care thing, because that's also mentally exhausting and traumatic for the person that has to watch. So maybe you need therapy, maybe you need some support
Yeah.
to be the supporting partner, because that's a lot. So I guess just because you don't have the eating disorder yourself doesn't mean that you haven't been, like, I guess, traumatized by one.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I was going to ask you, Lindsay. Like, in talking to your mom and to your husband, like, what did they say? Like, how did they cope while also helping?
Yeah. So my mom was the one that was in it with me because she saw the deterioration. I mean, mine started, when I was a lot younger than when I met my husband. But what she has said is that, if you stay consistent, she said, knowing that I was consistent, meaning she would call and say, I care about you. I love you. I'm worried. Have you thought about talking to someone who specializes in this? Here are 10 people that, I know are in the area, because I was away at school when it was the worst of the worst, and offer to help and support. And she would come up on the weekends, and that was her way of being there, and just, I would say, probably monitoring me, but doing it from a place of compassion. My husband now, throughout the years, if he has seen some behaviors that tend to flare up, because here's the thing, what Jenna said is spot on. It's not linear. You're going to have moments in life maybe where you might have a setback, or you might have something that kind of brings you back to that place. But when you're in those moments, the most powerful thing you can do is the opposite of what that mean girl is going to tell you to do. And so he has always kind of just checked me at the door, with an accountability of like, oh no, like what are we doing for dinner, and like cooking. And he is the cook in our house. I would say it's part of his role of knowing like I'm going to get ahead of this, so I will be there with her for those non-negotiables for the long haul. The important thing is to be patient.
All right, we had a bit of a technical difficulty, but now we're back. So we were talking about supportive partners a minute ago, and then Kelly, I think we were starting to talk about generational differences and how some of that maybe has led into where we are now.
Yeah, I was thinking about my mom, and my mom was forever on a diet. Like, and there were, like, I remember seeing the diet sodas, like the ones that had like just started coming out. I think they came out with my grandmother when I think about it, but like with my mom, like that was always around, the Slim Fast, the gross lean cuisine with the weird shape food and texture, like, and I'm moving my
quote
hands.
unquote food, in quotations.
When I think about it, it's like space food, right? Like how space food would be. That's what I think about with lean cuisine, and it was never enough, and so of course it's going to be lean cuisine again.
It
When I
should be
think about
called
it,
sad cuisine.
it should be, because I'm not eating it. Like, I'm just not going to eat that, and it's terrible. It's awful. So that, and then like my mom was always, she would work out for the sake of losing weight. Like that was just like, that's why she worked out, which obviously is not sustainable, truly, when you really think about it. But for me, like seeing that, it had the opposite effect on me. So I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to eat healthy food, like the cabbage soup diet. What? I'm not doing that for 7 days. That's horrifying. Like
First
stuff
of
like
all,
that.
if you had to go back in the office with a cabbage soup diet, like
That's
you
gonna
would
be
be
bad
farting
news.
people right
That's gonna
on
be bad
out.
news. That's gonna be bad news. I'm gonna tell you that too. But like, just like having that and knowing that I wanted to work out, because not to lose weight, but to be healthy, so that my heart was healthy. Like all of that became very important to me, because I saw the opposite of that. Like I always, when talking about this, I get concerned about the contributing factors like that parents may feel they have in it. Can you talk a little bit about that one, Lindsay?
Yeah, I can. There is some behavioral modeling and like genetic predisposition. And there's things that, what gets passed down is how we talk about our food, how we talk about our weight, how we talk about our bodies, or those food rules or exercise rules or negative self-talk. Like if, your mom says I'm so fat, and then, having a daughter that sees that, can internalize that. But it definitely is not just that, right? Mm-hmm. Like I feel like there is this mixology of different things, not just environmental, but also just, it's just coming for you. And that's kind of how I say that to my clients, is that, okay, it's this perfect harmony of something that you can't control from happening. Now, are certain people predisposed more than others? Are certain people put in an environment where they're learning that from their grandparent and their mother and their sister, and then yes, but part of it is because it's based around beliefs and values that you establish during childhood. And I think that we all have a childhood trauma one way or another, whether that is like the lack of trauma. For me, that was what it was, right? I had a perfect childhood, and so that gave me a sense of standard of like, I have to be perfect. And that also means my body has to be perfect. And because I was in a very visible sport, which required that of me for performance, my entire life has been about performing and perfection. And therefore that is part of it as well. And so there's multiple different ways of looking at it. For me, my eating disorder was a safe coping mechanism. It created this feeling of being superior, which is what it does for most women, because it's that secret of like, well, maybe I didn't get first place, but I most certainly didn't eat dinner tonight, and I have willpower like an ox. And like that creates this whole like superiority.
Just call me a big blue.
So I feel like it's not something, I mean, some children will grow up and they will use drugs or they will use alcohol to cope with certain things. And some will grow up and they will turn to eating disorders. And a lot of it is, for me, it was a way to feel important or feel like I wouldn't be rejected or not enough. And so, yes, that was established, I think, by not feeling like perfect in every situation I was in, whether that was my sorority or whether that was getting first place on the ice or whether that was, the guy that I liked choosing my best friend that was prettier than me, like whatever perceptions that we have in our mind, they can contribute to that. But the important thing is that knowing that like this isn't just something you can pick up and put down. This is a mental illness. It is not, it's not something that like the person that has it, there's a lot of guilt and shame. That comes from a place of like, oh, well, I can control this and I am the reason that it was caused. And no parent, no spouse, no even you yourself, if you're the one that has an eating disorder, caused this. So that's the first thing is to look inside and go, you didn't cause this. Okay, this was something that came for you. And while you can't cure it, and quite frankly, controlling it is only making it worse, you can look at ways that you can contribute to a healthier version of yourself and a healthier life. But I compare it to like, having cancer, for an example. No one really knows, or maybe they do. I don't know yet if we've gotten that far, but why some people get cancer and other people don't. Right. Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's what am I going to do next about it versus, my parent caused this by eating 100 calorie packs in front of me every day. Like, I just don't believe that that's the reality.
I don't know if we talked about this in the last one or not, so maybe I'm being repetitive, but you said, the guy I liked picked my best friend because she was prettier. Having eating and always, I'm not enough, right? I'm not skinny enough, or he didn't pick me because she's thinner than me, or it just gives you something to always go back to have that fabricated sense of control when things aren't going the way that you want. You can blame it on yourself and tell yourself that you have the ability to fix it. All you have to do is be thinner, eat less, get more muscly, whatever that is. But it's interesting. I don't know. Lost train of thought. Shocker. But
yeah, it contributes to the thought of like, something's wrong with me. And therefore I have to make it better. I have to fix this. There's nothing wrong. It simply just is what it is. Right.
Yes.
And so when you grow up kind of thinking that there's always something wrong, you always have to like have this project there. That's when you find your body becomes it. And you're constantly searching. And that can kind of, I think, be in parallel with like always needing to climb the corporate ladder, for an example, or always needing to have the title, or always needing to feel validated or be the most important person in the room because you feel like you're lacking. You're trying to prove to the world that you are. But there's nothing wrong with you.
Even just making sense of things that don't make sense. I think we're always looking for the why. Not like RY, but the why. Why did this happen to me? Why did this and a lot of times, like you said, it just happened to you because life is just hard sometimes. But that is so difficult to accept because it makes you feel so helpless and out of control that, again, if you have that one thing you can fixate on, which is, well, clearly this happened because I wasn't disciplined enough. So if I get thinner, I'll be more disciplined and things will be better, or plug whatever that thing is. So I think it also gives us this false sense of, when things don't make sense, I can make my own why. And it's always internal and controlled by me. And it's just something that I didn't do. And for some reason, it feels better to be able to take on the blame for why something happened instead of just saying, that just happened, man. And it just sucked. And there was nothing anybody could have done about it, because that feels scary and out of control.
It does feel out of control. And especially when talking about high performing people. Like that's the last thing you want to feel is anything is out of your control. So Lindsay, like what kind of practical shifts can someone make if they find that they are in this space and they're resonating with what we are talking about here?
Yeah, I think one thing is just to name it and like get it out, like get the skeletons out of the closet. I always say, like, in order to claim it, like you have to name it. And quite frankly, when we're in our own stuff, we don't even want to claim it, because then that means, guess what? We have to do something differently. And our brains are not wired for change. Like, we don't love change. Even if you are, you have that entrepreneur spirit and you like risk, it doesn't mean you necessarily, as a human being, enjoy a bunch of change. We tend to do,
describe me.
the routine.
Look, my coffee wasn't ready at 4:46 this morning. My day is ruined.
Right? So I think it's like getting it out on paper and going, what are these rules that I've established? And then where are they hiding as health and wellness that I believe are the Bible that are going to keep me safe? But the reality is I just heard that somewhere, like I shouldn't eat after 7 p.m. or I should fast all day, or, whatever it may be that you've created as rules, as though you have to follow these things in order to have that rigid routine. It's getting that out in first and foremost, right? And in order to go, okay, is this really true? Is this really true? Mm-hmm. And then I always tell my clients, like, be the lawyer in your case. I want you to argue back with that voice in your head that's telling you that's the rule. Mm-hmm. And I want you to go, but is it? Is it? I've been believing it, but is it? And then redefining what that looks like. And so we have to be able to say to ourselves and get real with ourselves, which is why I feel like women are coming out of this in midlife more so, is because we're tired of like anything that doesn't fit, right? Mm-hmm. We're over trying to put this mask and wear it for everybody else. And we're just like, okay, it's not aligned anymore with the way that we want to spend the next half of life. And so we have to normalize, okay, are these rigid rules, routines serving me now? Maybe they did at one point. Mm-hmm. But in the direction that I'm headed now, is it serving me? Something going into like the whole high performing thing that is just really common is that it feels like when you are a high performer, and especially the women that come to me and say, I'm terrified to gain weight, I'm terrified to recover from this, who am I if I do? They feel like it is something they're losing or something that's being taken if they make this change in life. And so what I just want to say to that is, if you're feeling that too, recovering from an eating disorder or disordered eating behaviors, it doesn't mean you're giving up or letting yourself go or giving up ambition. It actually means you're reclaiming it. You're not going to lose your edge. You're actually going to be better. And that's what helped me recover, is like, I just always love being better. I want to be better in all areas of my life. Right? Yeah. So I had to reframe it from like, skinny is the best. And so for a while, I tried on the bridge thought of like, strong is the new skinny for me. And that worked for a while. Mm-hmm. And so just, you're not going to stop performing. You're not going to become a basic B or be mediocre. And I feel like that is what kind of keeps people from taking all the skeletons, putting them out on the page and going, what rules am I defining? And is this actually true wellness? Because anything that we're manipulating, controlling, and restricting is really not healthy. If it's being done over and over and over as a way to manipulate or control your body, like, it's really not healthy. But in culture, it's going to tell you that it is. So we just have taken it to an extreme. And then I would say the next thing is to realize, like, am I judging myself? Am I judging myself for this? Do I feel guilt and shame? And so when I get on the treadmill, when I go to my workout, do I feel like it's an obligation? Or do I feel like I want to be there? And a lot of my clients, my ladies, will come to me and they're like, I don't even know. Well, the reason why you don't know is because you haven't allowed yourself permission to know. Which means it's probably been an obligation for quite some time, because it's a rule that you're just like, well, I get up and I do this thing.
Yes.
We have to check in with, is this actually, like, would I do this if I was on an island by myself? To, I don't know, make a fire and like cook a fish? Or would I just sit there and say, I need to be skinny because everyone around here is looking at me? Like, it just,
all those judgy birds.
Yes.
Yeah, I took us off on a tangent, but
this is great. And I like what you said before too, that something about safe, like these sort of routines and behaviors make us have this fabricated sense of safety. Mm-hmm. I don't know who I am without it, but it's actually a big fat lie. It's not keeping you safe at all. It's hurting you.
Yeah. It's hurting you.
What would I do if I was on an island? I think I would, well, is this like a resort island, or did I get stuck?
It's like Survivor.
Oh God, I would cry. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I would not be worried about being skinny though. That's for sure. I would just be sad. Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, where is that coming from? Where is it? Is it, I have something to prove? Is it, everybody's going to see me? I mean, my biggest thing after my treatment and my recovery was, what are people going to say when they notice I've gained all this weight? And I think that, again, you have to take a step back and go, they're not living in my life. And honestly, we tend to think that people care so much, but really people just care about themselves. And I don't mean that in like a very negative way. I just mean, when you take a picture with your friend, do you think your friend is looking at you in the picture or themselves? Like, they're looking at themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
What is the Dr. Seuss quote? Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because we are doing a lot of this out of the need and the desire to people please and to seem perfect, when inside it's harming and crippling us. Just standing by the truth of, like, your brain literally works better when it's nourished. Your body really does perform better when it's rested. And your relationships actually can thrive when you're watering them and you're present in them. And so your work that you put on a pedestal, it actually is only going to get better when you stop obsessing about the thing that you're putting off eating and trying to get whatever you're doing done. So that the important thing for high performers is that it isn't like a whole, I'm going to lose my edge, I'm going to lose my drive, it's going to make me soft. It actually just makes you better, and it redirects your drive, and you kind of stop using your discipline to destroy yourself, and you start using it to build the life that you actually want.
That's amazing.
Boom.
Lindsay, thank you so much for being here with us. We are very grateful to you for so many things, our little pod here, and also for all of this incredible wisdom that you have brought to us. I really have learned a lot today, just listening to you and talking with you. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
If women are listening and they're thinking, okay, well, where do I go from here? I just want people to remember that, recovering from an eating disorder or those behaviors is the most audacious thing that you can do. And that means you are choosing yourself, choosing your freedom, and you're so worthy of it. So I appreciate you both for letting me come on, and it means so much.
You heard her, folks. Go be audacious. And I know we said we're done, but and I feel like, Kelly, one of the themes that we've been talking about and that I've been experiencing, because we talk about we're in different like areas of this journey. Yeah. And when you said you don't know if you like something or not, that is in so many areas of our life. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I like in the bedroom. I don't know what I like to eat. I don't know what I actually like to do, because so much of my life until this point has been doing all the things I thought I should do. And so this can just be another part of that whole unraveling of, oh God, I've lived my whole life doing what I was supposed to be doing. And now I can do what I want. I don't know what I want yet, but instead of that being scary, that's really exciting, you guys. You might find out you just really love steak, whatever that is. It's really fun. So it doesn't have to be all scary and all overwhelming. It can also be this like new lease on life. You only get one of them. And this is a huge thing that can, like, if you choose to address it, and can start a whole fun new chapter.
Stop shooting yourself.
Yeah, stop shitting yourself. That's funny, because that sounds like something else.
And I was like, oh, that's true. We don't want to do that either.
That's if you have too much fiber. So, which can also be a stop shitting yourself, because you don't have to eat salad if you don't want to. Lindsay, thank you. You're the best. And we'll talk to everybody later.
Oh, friend, thank you so much for letting me share what was on my heart today. My hope for this podcast is to help more women find freedom from food and body. If this has empowered or blessed you, let me know. I'd be honored for your rating and review of my show, and I'd love to connect with you in my private Facebook community. You really can move from perfection to purpose. Let's break the chains together. I'll help navigate the way. Until next time, bye for now, girl.